Hello and welcome to Matt and Mike Pull Focus. I'm Mike.
And I'm not.
And today we're going to be carrying on our little discussion about some of our favourite scenes. Maybe not the top 5 scenes, but just 5 great scenes that live in our memory. Matt, last time we spoke about yours, and today we're going to be talking about mine.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. First one I'm going to start off with is one that holds a special place in my heart just because it's been a favourite since childhood. And that would be the chatty duel, or the fight scene, the sword fight scene from Princess Bride.
I didn't see this until about 2 years ago, so I never watched this as a kid. Was it one of your childhood favourites?
Oh yeah, definitely. I was raised on The Princess Bride, so for the past 20 odd years, lines and catchphrases from that have just lived in my memory, such as "My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die."
It's like one of the most quotable movies ever. Definitely, isn't it? It's got to be.
Yeah, I love the script for it, and some of my favourite lines actually come from this little fight scene, which you wouldn't expect from a sword fight scene to be so chatty and so talkative, but. For context, Inigo Montoya and what we find to be Wesley, our hero of the film, have a bit of a sword fight. It's like his first task is to try and beat the sword fighter before he takes on eventually Andre the Giant and then the mastermind in a game of wits. It is probably one of my favourite scenes of all time. The music is absolutely brilliant. The choreography between Mandy Patinkin and Cary Elwes is brilliant. The chemistry between the two of them is really fun. You learn so much about the characters, not just from Inigo's backstory that he tells to the Man in Black, but the fact that Inigo doesn't immediately start the fight. He lets Wesley catch his breath because he wants a good opponent. So he has honor. He has morals. He has principles. But not only that, but he likes a challenge. They go from fighting left-handed to then Inigo changes to the right hand, and then Wesley changes to the right hand too. And it has stages of the fight.
The choreography just absolutely blew my mind on this one. Because I'd listened to an interview with Cary Elwes talking about the making of Princess Bride, and he said that they were training all the time, 7 days a week, whenever they weren't filming. So whenever the director yelled cut, whenever Rob Reiner yelled cut and they were had any spare time, their trainer would come over and, hand them a sword and keep going. Because in the script, in the screenplay, it literally said, these two characters meet and have the greatest sword fight in cinema history.
No pressure.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think they pulled it off, man.
Yeah, the amount of dedication that they put into the choreography and making sure that everything works and flows flawlessly. Yeah.
It's a parody at the same time as being brilliant, isn't it? It's its own thing, but it's also parodying, obviously, the sort of swashbuckling movies of the past.
The Errol Flynn, Robin Hood ones.
Yeah, exactly.
While still being an homage to them, still trying to say hey, we love what you do, but this is how we're going to be doing it, by doing it in our own special kind of tongue-in-cheek way, like you say. It just always sticks in my mind in terms of one of my favorite fight scenes of all time.
Totally, man. It's brilliant.
And speaking of fight scenes, my second one is from the Chinese film Hero.
I've never seen this film, dude, but I'm such a huge fan of Crouching Tiger. And is it from the same director or the same?
It's not the same director as Crouching Tiger, but it is the same kind of resurgence of kind of martial arts films that came from the early
99
2000s.
onwards,
exactly.
House of Flying Daggers.
Yeah, it was followed up by the House of Flying Daggers. It's the same director as that.
Right.
But it went to a certain film festivals, and then Quentin Tarantino saw it, thought that it needed to reach a wider audience because of how just technically fantastic it was. And so then it became Quentin Tarantino Presents Hero. Right. And that's why it came to Western audiences, and I'm so glad it did, because the opening fight scene of the film blew me away so much, because I may have been shown Crouching Tiger by friends or other kind of Chinese martial arts films, but I'd never really got into them and never really grabbed me. I tried to bring as many friends to screenings of it as possible, because it had such a limited run, and I was so passionate about it and how well it was done, that I tried to bring everybody to it. Not everyone had the same kind of reaction as I did, but I was just happy that they were able to see something so technically proficient as it was.
It's not like for everyone, because it's kind of I gather it's in the same kind of thing where it's sort of surreal. Like the certain characters have almost like superpowers. Some of them can fly.
Yeah, there's a lot of high wire work involved in the fights and the film. Similar to Crouching Tiger, House of Flying Daggers, people fly around all the time and like can control the elements, and there's lots of surreal moments or just like fantasy based.
And that's
things.
not for everyone, is it? Some people like their like martial arts and their action movies to be a bit more kind of like
more grounded,
in reality.
No, I totally get that, which is why it kind of hit me so much, because whilst the film does have fantastical elements, in this fight between Nameless, played by Jet Li, and Sky, played by Donnie Yen, it's probably the most grounded of the fight scenes. There are loads of different ones during the film that are like breathtaking, like visually, but in this one it just struck me because of the music choices. I was a really big fan of the setting, it being a rainy courtyard, very muted colors in terms of like the other sections of the film where are like light blue, vibrant green and red, whereas this one seems to be quite dour,
really saturated colours.
And like in that way it is the most grounded of all the fight scenes in the film, but the choreography is absolutely outstanding. The weapon training that they must have gone through, and it's very interesting because it all kind of takes place in the imagination of both fighters. Jet Li's character Nameless does state that martial arts is very much like music, and it's involves complex melodies, learning your instruments rather well in terms of weapons and say like the guitar, and there is some fantastic music being played all the way through. That kind of echoes how complex the fighting is all the way through.
Do they actually have a real fight scene, or is it like you said, it was just in their imagination, so it's like they sort of predicting what's going to happen in the fight? Is it one of those type of scenes?
The scene starts with Sky fighting off elite guards, like 7 of them in like certain rounds, and then eventually Jet Li comes up and says that I challenge you. There is a slight thing, a slight little mini fight before the musician tries to leave, and they say, "No, please stay and do the music, the grand music for our grand fight." I don't know. It added more depth to the idea of the characters and saying like, no, we respect you, we respect music in the same way we respect martial arts.
Yeah, sort of what's the word? There's they're cultured fighters.
They are cultured fighters, and then because they start listening to the music, they start closing their eyes and imagining the fight that takes place, and then it goes into like a black and white fight scene that is some of the most impressive fighting I've ever seen in a film. And then when the music stops, then they start fighting, and ironically, it's just one stab that happens after that because all the fighting has taken place in their mind already.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a very unique way of portraying a fight in like the minds, but still the fighting is absolutely top notch, and I can't recommend it enough.
That sounds great, man. So I need to watch that.
Yeah, definitely do. So from one scene that is enhanced by the music, another one for me would be the train scene from Spirited Away, otherwise known as The Sixth Station.
That's just it's a dream, that film, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's great.
And I'm so glad you liked it when I introduced you to it.
As much as you said you associate like horror movies as like things like Candyman and The Exorcist with me, I cannot like see Spirited Away without thinking of you. And
Good.
I've watched it since you first showed it to me, and that sequence in particular is so accurately dreamlike.
Yes,
it's just
definitely.
So perfect. Like, anyone who's had like a crazy fantasy dream like that will be able to relate to it.
No, I totally agree. Essentially, the heroine of the story, Chihiro, takes a train ride from our main bathhouse to a place called Swamp Bottom, and that requires them going through 6 different stations. So that's hence why the scene's called The Sixth Station. The music all the way through is one of the most beautiful pieces of music I've heard by Joe Hisashi, and
each frame is a painting.
It really is. The amount of different scenes, the different stations that they pass through, just one by one, I can't begin to describe how beautiful everything is. Like you say, every frame is a painting in that. It adds so much world building without actually having to say anything. It's all wordless. It's all just the music implying different things, and like the dreamlike nature of it. You seeing different characters who don't really feature at all, but like you just wonder, why are they there? What's their story? Passing through like village, different towns with different like neon signs. Like, yeah, you don't need to know everything, but you get so much more bigger idea of the geography of this fantasy world. It's not just the bathhouse; it's this entire land that has now been flooded for some reason, but the train runs through them all, and you see like just little glimpses, and it's such a fantastic way of describing of show don't tell.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. And like you mentioned the geography just then, I think that's one of the biggest appeals of the movie. Is I can't explain it any more than I just have when I'm in that Spirited Away world, I know exactly where I am geographically.
And not just that, but it's such a nice respite from the rest of the film being very story heavy.
Yeah, and dialogue heavy too.
Dialogue heavy, true. Yeah, and it's asking you to take on so much that this is a nice little bit of it's just a train ride. Yeah. But even then, they are giving you so many different ideas to take on board that I just absolutely adore it. And it's a great I listen to the music every time I take a train ride.
Yeah, of course.
Not like over and over again, but just like it's a nice little thing to reminisce about, especially if I'm on the coast. If I'm ever like on a train with water near me, it's always such a great. I used to
recreate that scene.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I can't help but do it. So from nice, heartwarming, whimsical stuff, now we're going to get into a bit more scary stuff. And two of these back to back are two scenes that really stick with me in terms of scary visuals, I'd say. The first off being one I had to study a lot when I was in college, and that's the sloth scene from Seven.
Oh man, what a great choice!
Yeah,
from a horror fan. Jesus Christ, it's still it's one of those scenes like I know it's coming now, but I don't know exactly when, and every time it makes me. It's like an equal. I think it's the only jump scare where you're equally scared and repulsed.
Yes.
In equal measure at the same time, and that's not easy to do.
No, I definitely. It's definitely one that sticks with people. Where every time I've introduced them to it, because it happened to me as well.
You got what you deserved.
Its position in the film is that you feel like you're actually making some progress alongside Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, and you're actually getting close to John Doe. You're finding where he is. They've got the bastard's address. Brilliant. Okay, you think it's this guy Victor. You get into the room and it's very dark. There's lots of air fresheners, the pine air fresheners on the ceiling, and you're thinking, okay, this is very weird, very dingy. Okay, I'm on board with you arresting the guy still, but then you come across Victor tied to the bed, and it's one of the most disgusting scenes I've ever seen. Like just pure revulsion in terms of this is hell. This is an actual hell someone's been tortured with. And
but there's the familiar, like the air fresheners are like sickly funny because it's kind of like a familiar object that you've all seen and you've all like used before.
It's been twisted.
And it's all brightly coloured, but there's just hundreds of them hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, it becomes horrifying because of the different kind of context it's in now.
Why are they there? What are they trying to cover up?
Exactly, There's so much tension. There's so much, that when he's finally revealed, you think that, that's the end of the tension. That's all that it is. It's just, oh God, this is horrible, but he's obviously dead. There's no way anyone could be surviving after this. Then John C. McGinley gets a bit closer and says, you got what you deserved, you son of a bitch. And then the cough and the sound is like, it's one of the most subtle jump scares that's ever there, because like the music kicks in, but the sound of him breathing is the jump scare, and it's not like a big cymbal crash. It's just him coughing, and then you're suddenly, oh God, he is alive. What kind of experience is this guy going through? And it's just,
there's something about the strength of the SWAT team as well. I think these really tough like guys, they're in body armor with the guns against
the battering ram to break down the door against that one.
The strength of them and the cockiness, and then but the fact that they are, don't they make I'm sure that I might be imagining this, but do they not make an effort to show one of the SWAT members like looking distressed, like this is something that's going to stay with them, like on the outside? Does he like pat someone on the back and say like, you want
to like revolted
traumatized guys?
Definitely.
I remember that kind of thinking that that's really clever because it's showing that this is going to stick with them. This is something that they've never seen before.
You can be as big as tough as you like, but this is a scene that even they will be traumatized with.
Exactly. And these like tough macho guys. God, David Fincher, I'm so glad that he had a career after Alien 3 because as much as I love it, as you know, bingo card,
he's mentioned Alien 3.
It certainly wasn't a guarantee, and then 7 is still one of the greatest horror movies.
My next kind of scary scene is one that really kind of stuck with me in terms of my experiences in the cinema. I remember my first real year of watching films in the cinema, I'd say would be about 2001. So I remember seeing the first Harry Potter, the first Lord of the Rings in the cinema, and just kind of falling in love from cinema at that point.
A lot of epics, man, at that point.
Yeah, it was a very good year. So the fact is that like my experience with Lord of the Rings came from just it being the first real grand epic that I was seeing on like such a big scale in like, you know, the silver screen and surround sound and everything being around me. So much so that like the big events and big moments and big scenes really stuck with me and have done since then. So one of the first ones I remember seeing and really sticking with me was when in The Return of the King, when Gollum leads Sam and Frodo to Minas Morgul, which is like the home of the Ringwraiths or the Nazgul, you know, the big shadowy cloaked
the huge
figures.
Green. I should probably say at this point, I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I've seen them all, but I'm much more of a Star Wars geek than I am a Lord of the Rings geek. Yeah. However, I do remember there's like a huge green sort of luminous fortress.
Exactly.
Things at that scene.
It's a big green castle that looks like it's been lit from below, from beneath. And yeah, they're like visually, like you say, visually striking. You're used to the kind of rural scenes of the Shire. You're used to it being like a bit more, getting darker and darker and more gritty and gritty. But you're still like on the grasslands of Rohan in The Two Towers. And this one's just getting like, okay, you're getting into enemy territory here. This is like the first kind of step. They've seen the Black Gate, but still that's a big Black Gate. Now you're seeing Minas Morgul and it's like very imposing and threatening. Just the music all the way through just kind of slowly builds, and like it feels like Peter Jackson's finally able to kind of enter his horror background a little bit more. He's able to use it a little bit more than he's used to. And like the camera starts shifting weirdly. It like has like a bit of a, not a crash zoom, but like a very handheld zoom on one of the like the gargoyle grotesques that are outside as well.
Yeah.
And it just seems to like,
it's recalling like Brain Dead and like his earlier movies that were all in Bad Taste and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Where it's all a bit more handheld and a bit more, certainly the horror genre, definitely.
Yeah. It just made me feel like, okay, I know where I am with Lord of the Rings. Oh no, wait, what the hell is this? A crash zoom with a handheld camera? That's nothing like I've seen in this trilogy so far. This is really weird. This is very unique.
We're entering different territory here somehow.
Exactly.
We're building up to the finale.
Yeah, definitely. And like it's the start of the end now. This is like the start of like evil is now creeping into the film. And Frodo seems to be like drawn, like a voice is drawing him to the castle. Sam and Gollum have to bring him back. And then all of a sudden, there's like a big cacophony of noise. It keeps building and building and building. And then suddenly, big white light springs up into the sky from Minas Morgul. And just my brain was absolutely blown. I was just like, what is this? What? It was so magnificent in terms of the sound design, the sound production of it, and just the visuals as well. It just scared me. And then it cuts to Gandalf, and he's like seeing this, and he's like, oh shit, what the hell's going to happen here? And I'm just like, oh god, I should be paying attention to this.
I can't help thinking of the sonic bomb that Jango Fett launches, in Attack of the Clones. Yeah, it's like the best bit of the entire film. But yeah, that sort of pulling away, taking away the audio and then also suddenly bringing it back,
noise, silence.
Yeah.
Big noise.
Yeah,
it's like, whoa, okay. It's the same kind of thing of why the War of the Worlds but with Tom Cruise hit me. The sound of the tripods when they first emerged.
Oh my god, yeah, that's amazing.
You hear the deep bass of it.
I love
it chills me. It gives
War
me
of the Worlds. I love the remake of War of the Worlds.
Same.
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, but
really
it still gives
film.
me chills to this day. So Minas Morgul, it was, I don't know, it was a standout scene in a film that like went straight into my top 10 and still remains there, to be honest. And it's just definitely my favorite just because it had the most impact on me, the most effect. I was thinking about it for days, months, and still now years after.
Yeah.
Just the effect it had on me. It was just the first big like punch in the face that
they never leave you these things, man. I think if they have that big an effect on you, then it's they're going to be with you forever.
Exactly.
I'm sorry to say.
So thank you very much for listening to me and Matt prattle on about 5 great movie scenes. We're going to be doing more of these in the future, and if you'd like to tell us your 5 favourite movie scenes, or just one in detail, tell us in the comments down below. If you'd like to hear more from us, subscribe to our channel and be sure to like this video, as it really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Damn that algorithm. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Twitch, now by searching for the name Matt and Mike Pull Focus. Say goodbye, Matt.
Bye, Matt.
And that's goodbye from me as well. Goodbye.